Hey, 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 hey. Great evening, great Thursday evening. I swear I do this every day, right? So why I can't get the days to flow easily and tell you that is beyond me. But great evening, great Thursday evening, everyone. It is still Thursday, and I am still Catherine Beasley here with day 11 of our Self Everything series. And tonight's talk is going to be on self love, and I will forewarn you that self love encompasses pretty much everything that we've talked about over the past 10 days. So I won't belabor all of that, but it all comes together with some key pieces specific to self love that we'll talk about as well. Um, and I want to start by saying that you deserve it, right? You deserve love, period. And there is no greater love than love of self. No matter how much love you receive from outside, right? You have unconditional love from your children, from your parents, or whatever. But when you have that sort of self love, or when you have self love, that just trumps all of that, and it will strengthen you and give you the ability to face whatever comes your way when you know that you love yourself and you treat yourself accordingly. So, leave it that way. Talk about this hair for a second or not, right? I keep messing with it, and so today it's just took the braids out and it's looking really interesting, but ignore that as I start to ignore it myself. So when we're talking self-love, we're talking about number one, and it seems some of these may not even seem like they are related to self-love when you initially start to look at them or hear them, but they all really have something to do with it. So one is the golden rule, right? Treat others like you'd like to treat, like you'd have them treat you. And how you treat others is a reflection of how you feel about yourself, whether you will admit that to yourself or not, right? When you are evil, when you're negative, when you just are spiteful for people, right? Or anything negative towards people, that really is usually a self reflection, right? And something that makes that you feel inside that you are projecting onto other people. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that. And one of the best ways to do that is to treat people how you'd like to be treated. And when you do that, then you're training people on how to treat you, right? You're teaching them how to treat you. So respect for others. And respect is interesting. Many people feel like especially nowadays, people feel like they will respect people when people earn respect. And the truth is that you need to respect everyone. And if anything, people lose your respect, but they don't have to earn it. It's just common decency for you to show respect for people. So keep that in mind. We talked about the discussion on, and I called it self awareness and self examination on the first 2 days. And then we talked about self doubt and self belief thereafter for the most part. And what we're talking about there is, as it relates to self love, is understanding yourself, having self awareness. And understanding is going to be key. It will allow you to identify any triggers for you that will make you feel lesser than, that make you exhibit less love for yourself and less grace for yourself. So when you can identify those triggers because of the self-examination that you've gone through and the assessment that you've done to really understand yourself, then you know how to pivot and maneuver past all of those triggers and keep yourself in a state of self-love. So making sure that you have done that homework to identify, right, to assess yourself, get to know yourself so that you understand what triggers you and how to maneuver past them is going to be key. The other is setting goals for yourself. What better way to exhibit love for self if than setting a goal and keeping that goal, or making that goal, right? Keeping that promise to yourself to do something. So set those goals for yourself. Set targets that will have you striving to reach something, and set them and make them big enough that you have to stretch yourself, right? You don't want to just reach for things that are easily in your grasp, things that are in your wheelhouse and that you know how to do without even thinking about them. You want to make sure that you are setting goals that are going to push you past your comfort zone that will then allow you to grow into the next phase of your life. And once you reach that goal, you set a new and higher one. So you're constantly elevating, right? And what we're talking about there is self-education, continuing to learn new things and being able to share those things too. So you want to make sure that you incorporate that. And when you set those goals, don't be fearful and allow it to keep you from trying to reach those goals, right? You want to set those goals and then chunk them into small pieces that you can then have some victories with, which will bolster your self-confidence and move you happily to the next phase and the next phase as you continue to strive towards what your goal is. So we're talking about the compound effect there. Every time that you exhibit a little bit of improvement, 1% each day, right? Improvement in your ability to fulfill your goals and move towards them and do the thing that you need to do to reach your goal instead of procrastinating, say, that bit of success is going to become the bedrock or the foundation for the next level of success and the next one. And it just, once you start to experience small wins, striving for the big win doesn't scare you anymore, right? You've had the success of the first thing that you've tried to do, and it gives you the confidence to move on to the next and then to the next. So set the goal large, but then remember to chunk it down into smaller, obtainable tasks that will help to bolster your confidence and move you towards your goal consistently, instead of looking at it as it's so large and now you become afraid and wonder if you can do it, and it starts to stall you. So set those goals and then let the compound effect work for you. The same way that it does with money, right? It will work with you reaching your goals and building that confidence. And therefore, right, when you're confident, you exhibit more love to yourself as well. Talked about showing grace just now too. You have a past. You've done some things that maybe you're not so proud of. You have you've experienced some things that didn't go your way, and you may have had a certain reaction to it. Whatever it is, you just got to show yourself some grace for who you were, and to continue to strive for who you want to be or towards who you want to be, and not allow yourself to get bogged down in the past, right? And practicing this kind of self-love is going to set you free from the sort of things that hold you back. When you start to let go of those, one of my mentors, Dean Graziosi, calls it the inner villain, that voice inside of you, not even the external ones, right? That voice inside of you that's always 2 seconds away from trying to, why is this shirt all like that? From trying to, from sabotaging yourself, right? Keeping you from moving forward because it's going to tell you that you can't do something instead of bolstering yourself and telling you that you can, that sort of thing. When you give power to something like that inner voice, then it stalls you. So showing yourself some grace for the different things that have happened in your life, right? Someone or yourself telling you what you were in the past and not seeing you for what you are now or what you're trying to be. Let all of that go and embrace who you are and who you are going to become, right? Investing in yourself. And I'm not talking monetarily. Again, I'm talking about knowledge. And I keep calling it self-education. If you go get into a class, then get into a class, right? It doesn't have to be self-education and self-taught things, but you want to constantly elevate and learn new things, whether it's something that is related to your craft or not. And again, that level of expertise that you have that allows you to easily talk about something, right? When you can just get a topic and go on a riff about it, or someone starts a conversation and you just can go and be one of the, if not the smartest person in the room about that topic, that will certainly bolster your confidence again, which is key to having a level of self-love and gaining that level of self-love. So invest in yourself and you'll start to improve and feel that sense of self-love increase in you. Mentioned before, you control you in terms of the self-control portion of our discussion that we had. Well, that really is one of the doctrines that I am studying more Stoicism, and right, so from Marcus Aurelius to Seneca to today, Ryan Holiday, something who really practices that and writes about it a lot. And really, it's just, and I actually put a post up on my page today about it. You like stuff happens. The world just does what it does. People do what they do. You have to know not to respond to it emotionally. Just accept things as fact. Try to be as objective and take yourself out of the situation as much as you can so that you can see it for what it is and then move accordingly. When you add emotion behind something, then you form opinions of it. Then you get depressed or angry or disappointed because people didn't behave the way you wanted or things didn't go your way, right? The job, they don't appreciate you. Those are all things that will happen in your lifetime, and you controlling you means that you get to control how you respond or not to those outside influences. Things are going to happen anyway. So when you practice that level of stoicism or control over yourself, then you're also practicing self-love because you're alleviating all of those negative emotions that will sometimes plague you when you allow yourself to be emotionally charged and affected by the things that are happening. So I want you to make sure that you practice that level or start to practice that level of self-control so that you can start to protect yourself even more. You want to protect yourself from negative energy. You want to stop and not be the person who has the negative energy as well. We always talk about other people's energy. You need to have a level of self-reflection and honesty with yourself to understand that sometimes you may be the negative person in the room. Sometimes you may be the negative force that's holding you back from reaching your goals, your dreams, from loving yourself. So keep that in mind and practice not being negative. And that also means controlling what you hear, who you allow to speak life into you, and they should be speaking life into you. If they are not, including yourself, one, you turn them off and you make sure that you limit their access to you, if not remove their access totally. And two, for yourself, you just start to recognize. So, and when you understand the triggers and when you start to hear that level of self-negativity or doubt or the put downs that you have. You recognize it for what it is. It'd be great when you get to the point where you don't even do it anymore. But really, even the best of us have those self doubts and issues at times when it comes to the talk that you have with yourself. But what you always want to know is that you have the ability to change that. So as soon as you start one of those thoughts that don't serve you, right, won't move you forward, then that's when you have that trigger and you pivot and recognize. In recognizing the trigger, you get to retrain yourself, right? And it's basically, again, the compound effect in practice, but this time with habits. Habits are formed and they stick with you, right? Things that you're so used to saying bad stuff about yourself that you do it all the time without even recognizing it. You're so used to doing certain things that don't serve you. Well, those are those habits that you have from the paradigms and how you grew up. Well, when you can identify them, they're usually related to something that triggered you, and therefore you respond in kind with whatever that habit behavior is, or habitual behavior is. So you want to see that behavior and give it a different trigger so that when you have that trigger, you want to create a different habit that you associate with it. And that way you won't go down that rabbit hole of the negativity that will come into your life if you don't, right? Stop yourself. So the point is that you want to make sure that once you identify the triggers, once you hear yourself saying something negative based on something that happened, you want to associate a different habit to that trigger because the triggers tend to be there all the time. So when you start to replace the old habit with the new in a gradual phase, right, it happens and then you catch yourself, that compound effect, the more you do it, the more that you are going to be able to make it your new practice. Then it goes away, it changes, and you've built a new habit. So you wonder why we have a 30-day series. And it's not just because it's a month's time overall, but because that's really what you'll hear many people say. Um, Listen to Earl Nightingale, The Stranger's Secret, very often, or others of the people in that particular field. And, they talk about when you're training yourself to do something, you're going to do it for 30 days, and you need to be successful in it for 30 days in order for it to really stick with you. So when you start to do this sort of thing, you just remember to give yourself a 30-day count. And if you should fail on one of those days, and start again. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with starting again. It means that you're persevering, that you're persistent, that you're resilient, and that you will get there, right? When you don't see the result that you want, you don't think of it as a failure. You think of it as a learning opportunity, and then you take the lesson and move past it. So I'm talking about making sure that you you control you, and you have the habits that you are forming to help elevate you, right? And all of this still ties right back into your ability to love yourself. Because once you remove all of that self negativity and the external negativity, then all you have is yourself. And the good that you feel for yourself, and the good that you're letting come into you, people feeding into you instead of taking away from you. And that'll build you up too. How do you do that? Love yourself, build yourself up. Some of the ways that we've discussed, but also self-affirmation, right? We talk about affirmations and trying to manifest what you want in life. You need to also take some time to affirm yourself and self-love that you have for yourself. So you're going to do those self-affirmations, and one of the key ways to do that is to use mirror work. And again, I have people who have been talking about it from days of old, and the person who's speaking about it more recently that I listen to is Lisa Nichols, and she just is a just rabid fan of mirror work. And that involves you going into the mirror and affirming yourself, telling yourself how much you love yourself, telling yourself how worthy of love you are, how beautiful you are, if that's an issue for you, how determined you are, how whatever it is that you want to build yourself up with, you're doing that in front of a mirror, you're speaking to yourself, you're standing up with posture, and really just a power pose, whichever one works for you. For me, it's just standing with your legs out in, the Wonder Woman pose is a good one, but whatever posture that allows you to feel powerful. And you'll see that many people, Tony Robbins does this a lot, right? He'll have his seminars, and then he's just full of energy, and he's big on changing your state, especially when you're about to do something that needs to stick. And so he'll have the audience get up and just rile themselves up. But even just the act of standing gives you more energy, and at least for me, and then it makes you perk up and pay more attention and receive what it is that you're doing more than if you're sitting and not really engaging. So changing your state and being in positive. So that mirror work and standing in front of the mirror and talking to yourself and affirming who you are, how great you are, the fact that you have this immense self-love for yourself. Even if you don't have it right now, that mirror work and talking to yourself is going to help to reinforce that for you and have you start to move in that direction. There's an example in one of the audios that I listen to often where they're talking about someone who, a long time ago, right? A man who was drunk in a business meeting, and, on purpose, the people got him drunk to try to make a fool of him when it came time to talk business. And what he did, because he was feeling a little drunk, he went upstairs to his room, stood in front of his mirror, and talked himself out of being drunk, right? He told himself he's not drunk. He told himself he is very capable of conducting this business meeting in a sober fashion and knocking it out the park. And sure enough, after a few minutes of that, he came back downstairs, and were the people who thought that he was going to be, falling down drunk and they'd be able to take advantage of him. When they saw him, they realized that he wasn't drunk any longer. He did feel the effects of the alcohol, but his mind over matter kicked in and allowed him to still behave as if he wasn't drunk, even if his body was still feeling the effects of the liquor that he had been partaking in. So again, that mirror work is a way for you to allow yourself to move to the state that you want to be in, to become the person that you want to when you are affirming what it is that you want for yourself. Um, Controlling your environment, we talked about already. Comparing yourself. Oh my golly goodness. One of the number one killers of confidence, one of the number one killers of self-love, right, is when you compare yourself to other people. What's for you is yours and yours alone, and no one can take it from you, period. So you have to stop comparing yourself and your standard of success or level of success with others, or how you look or don't look, right? You are you. Embrace you. Show yourself that love, and stop setting outrageous standards for yourself that just aren't yours. When you can walk in your own truth and not worry about what other people say about you, to you, do to you, you are fully empowered. That level of just confidence and self love will take you so very far versus you ending up being worried about what everyone else thinks and says, and now you're behaving to please other people, doing things to please them that may not serve you, that may not help you to reach your goals, that are keeping you back and holding you in a spot that makes everyone else comfortable, right? It's easy for other people to pass judgment and for them to tell you anything, because and they want to do that, right? Because they like to keep themselves comfortable, and having you be at a certain level is comfortable for certain people. And when you start to elevate, it makes them uncomfortable, especially if they're not coming with you, right? So keep that in mind, and that should be a reminder to stop comparing yourself, right? You're going where people that are in your circle currently may not be trying to go, which means you're going to have to leave some people behind. Everyone can't go with you, right? You can go back and visit them every now and again, but you don't want to spend too much time there. Doesn't mean because someone isn't on a path of self-elevation that you no longer deal with them if they really hold a place in your life, but it does mean that you limit your access, their access to you, and your time with them, because you always want to be around people who are on the same frequency as you and who are moving towards the same things, even if it's not the same exact goal, but they're elevating, right? Because who you're around is going to affect how you act, what you do, who you expose yourself to. And so when we talk about, you may not be able to physically be around the type of people that you want to be around, the people you need to be around to reach these extra levels, right? So getting those mentors, online mentors that you spend more time with, right? Stay on your computer, on your phone, watching YouTube and listening to the people that will help take you to that level. That's the equivalent of changing your circle too. So it doesn't always have to be the people that you're around, but it's who you're exposing yourself to. You can physically be around, that is, but who you're exposing yourself to and listening to. So find those online mentors. If you can get access to them physically, great. And start to spend more time with them than with the people who may feel good to be around, for the hangout portion of it, and then aren't helping you to get to where you want to go. But when you, to bring it back, stop comparing yourself to others, and that's going to allow you to just be you and stand in all of your authenticity and start to really enjoy the who you are. And that transforms into that self-love that we're talking about. And the last one is get therapy, guys. Especially for Black people, it is one of those things we just, as a race, you find, and it's changing a lot. It has changed a lot. The message is out there. We too have mental health issues. We too need to speak to people, to help us move past what it is that we have. There's no stigma negative that you should feel towards getting the help that you need. You want to find someone that you feel comfortable talking to, someone who will listen and not just tell you anything, someone who has the proper credentials to help with exactly what it is that you want. So you want to make sure that you research your therapist, but you want to go ahead and get therapy. And even if you don't feel like you're having any problems, therapy is a good idea, just to talk yourself through things to make sure that you're still moving in the right place internally. So don't be afraid to get the help that you need in order to do all of these things, because it's not easy to do a self-assessment, right? And to become self-aware. It's going to be hard work. For the most part, people tend to avoid that sort of self-reflection because they don't want to bring up all those lost and pent up and hidden feelings and hurts that surround why we repress certain feelings and thoughts and why we behave the way that we do or not, right? Why do we procrastinate? What is it that keeps us from moving forward? That's probably a discussion that really goes deep and will cause you to experience some things that you may not want to have to experience alone. That keeps you from investigating in the first place. So when you're not able to do this for yourself, not everyone is, and that there's nothing wrong with you needing some outside guidance to really deep dive into the whys of who you are. Be willing to get yourself some therapy, and that in itself is the greatest form of self-love, knowing when you need help and actively going to get that help. Okay, so my friends, that is our self-love talk for the evening. I started before midnight, so it's into the next day, but I did start on the 11th day, so good kudos for me. And I'll have day 12 for you guys later on in the day. Have a great one. Bye-bye.